Good evening, everyone. This is the January 19th meeting of the Harbor Management Commission. I am Kim Taylor. As has been the case with our meetings in the era of the coronavirus, we unfortunately can take no comments from the public. However, all comments would be welcome via email. Please send comments to the Harbor Management Commission at fairfieldct.org and put 1/19/21 meeting in the subject line, and those comments will be included in the minutes. Let me take a roll, and so we can account for those who are present. Harry French.
Speaking here.
Thank you. Mark Foster.
I'm here. Hello.
Got you, Mark. Jack Hirschler.
Here.
Eric Sunman. Sam Cargill.
Present.
Sam.
Present. Can you hear me?
Great. I can hear you. Yes. Thank you, Sam. Ted Schwartzman.
I'm here, Kim.
Thank you, Ted. Doug Metchik.
I'm here. Good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you, Doug. Libby Trishler.
I know she was here before.
I heard her here before, so I'm going to mark her present. Harbor Master, Mr. Billings, Captain Billings.
I'm here.
Thank you. Jeff Stedman.
Here.
Thank you, Jeff. And Betty Gabriel. Betty, I thought I heard your voice earlier.
Yeah, she is here.
Okay.
I am here. Kim, I'm sorry, it's Betty.
That's all right. I've got you. So the first order of business this evening is to approve the minutes of our special meeting on November 12th. The other minutes, as you can see, as indicated on the agenda, Betty's been up to her eyeballs in trying to do her real job and get the minutes taken care of. So next meeting, hopefully we will be caught up on minutes. But for this evening, I need a motion. If everyone has taken a look at the minutes for the special meeting on November 12th, and if there are no questions, I would like a motion to approve them as submitted.
Kim, this is Ted. I will move to submit the minutes as submitted.
Thank you, Ted. Do we have a second?
I will second the motion. That's Sam Cargill.
Thank you, Sam. Ted and Sam. Okay. Before moving on to my report, before I begin my report, I would just like to say, Sam, I am sure that all the commissioners join me in sending condolences to you on the passing of your mom. COVID has made so many things difficult, including losing those we love. So if there's anything we can do, please know that you have our support.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. My chairman's report, we had an email on January 4th transmitting a deep application for a dock on Fairfield Beach Road.
I think you need to vote to approve this.
I didn't vote?
No, we just had a
Thank
second.
you. We had a second. Okay, all those in favor, thanks, Jack, of approving the minutes for the special meeting.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Great. That sounds like it's unanimous. Thank you.
Hi,
Any objections?
Madam Chairman, Eric Sunman is here.
Great, Eric. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any objections to the minutes of the special meeting? Excellent. Okay. Back to my chairman's report. Thank you, Jack, for keeping me honest here. The email for transmitting the application for a dock at Fairfield Beach Road, which is out of our jurisdiction. Nonetheless, as you know, we do get copies of those applications. And we had a second piece of correspondence that came in after the agenda had been put together from John Casey related to the application for a mooring of 789 Harbor Road, which I distributed to all of the commissioners and which is currently posted on the HMC website for any members of the public who wish to see that and any other, all the other letters that we have received in connection with the proposed changes to the rules and mooring procedures in the harbor. That is my report. Captain Billings, tell us how things are going.
Well, things are going quite well. I'm feeling very chipper today because I just received my test results from being exposed to someone who had COVID last week, and they just came in at 12 o'clock this afternoon, which my wife and I are very thankful that we did not contract the disease. But we felt fine all week long in any event. And Madam Chairman, may I also commend you for your remarks to Mr. Cargill. We all concur and feel the same way. Things are extremely difficult in these trying times, but you realize you have friends, and we must and will persevere. Right. With my newfound freedom, so to speak, today, I took my problematic computer down to IT at Town Hall, as some of you may have heard prior to the taping. It was described as being not worth repairing, as the touchpad is the issue. I spent a bit of time with Dave, and he said it really is not worth repairing. I am able to use it with a corded mouse right now, but as you all know, with a laptop, it's a little inconvenient to do that, and so it would be nice to be able to get another computer. I'm not sure if there's a model that will last longer. Unfortunately, this one is just out of warranty by a little over 6 weeks. So, I guess it figures, right?
Right.
So,
and are you able to use it to continue with the sending out the mooring applications and the waitlist notices and all of that?
Yes, I am. Dave helped me through that. Maybe springtime we can look for something else, but
okay.
I mean, for the time being, it's fine. He gave me a few helpful hints as to how to use other computers using the town sites, etc. So, I mean, we're good. I just wanted to give you notice that there is a problem with this computer.
Okay.
Which leads me into the main use of this computer, which is communications and online mooring. There has been some growing pains with this, as we all know. Mm-hmm. And there was a couple of leftover problems from last year. I believe most, if not all of them, have been resolved. One of them was the manner in which the renewals went out this year. They went out, as most of you are aware, at least a week late, and that was because we had issues last year which made them go out late. So it was just a technical problem this year, so they went out as quickly as possible. Next year, I promise, they will go out within a minute after midnight on New Year's Eve. So we'll get an extra week. But speaking of that, I know people didn't get them properly, so I think that as we did last year, I will grant a 1 week extension on filing, just in case people are out of state, which many people are out of state right now. And mooring applications are coming in. I believe my sense is it's a little bit quicker than it was last year, because last year was quite problematic with people not knowing how to upload, download, whatever the case may be. And you've all heard the excuses. Oh, we've always done it this way for X amount of years, which worked, but now we're in the computerized section, so it's coming along. My biggest issue this year is a continuation from last year in that people are very willing, I take that back. Most people are willing to remit payment, but they are reluctant to check on their other documents. Most importantly, their insurance document. As most of you are aware, your vessel registration doesn't expire until the end of April, so those, as long as you uploaded last year's registration, you're deemed current. So in any event, what it comes down to for me is multiple communications back and forth between the applicant and myself. But to date, I'm looking right now, mooring permits, I've approved 35. Incomplete are 28, and 45 are under review. And I mean, those two categories mean one or more items are missing from the individual application, or they're just totally missing.
I'm sorry, did you say 48?
Yes.
My apologies. You said 48 are under review?
45 are under review. 28.
45. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry. 28 is on the wait list. Renewal is incomplete. Okay. But I mean, total wait list people right now is up to 74. That is including people who have not yet renewed their wait list application from last year. And they still have a couple of weeks to do that. North Anchorage people, I've approved 17. So out of 51, there's 30 plus left to go. Let's see. I've had the pleasure of speaking with Jeff Engborg a number of times over the past couple of weeks. One of those conversations was regarding anchors and moorings that need to be addressed, especially along the wall over by the country club, which is, I believe all of you are aware, they dragged during the storm back in August. So that is a topic of conversation that he and I will continue with, and he may have some comments during his section tonight. He also informed me, as I was directed at the last meeting, to look for patrol vessels, which, speaking of COVID, it's good to be in real estate, I think, and also in boat sales, because houses and boats are tough to come by right now, and especially like a 17-whaler or maritime skiff, something in that area. But I'm very thankful to announce and pleased to announce that Pequot Yacht Club regularly rotates their junior safety boats, and one of those is coming up to be replaced this year. And excuse me. Mr. Engborg reached out to me and asked if that would be a suitable vessel for us, which it definitely is. I had the opportunity to look at it today, and while it's not brand new, I believe it'll suit our purposes well. But I'm not sure how the finances will go with this, but I believe we should set aside a certain amount to be determined for repairs and or maybe a new engine a few years down the road. But currently it is in good operating condition. I'll need to get in touch with either the legal department and or the finance department to discuss what is best, how to make this transfer from Pequot to the town of Fairfield. And so I'll get that in order shortly. I think the best thing for us going forward in my estimation, is to purchase a trailer to be able to transport it in and out of the water, especially for winter seasons. I'm sure that Justin Cathcart can find space for one more boat over at South Benson, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. Let's see, what else? I think that concludes my report. Sorry I was a little lengthy tonight, but it's been very busy. Multiple calls, and I do mean multiple calls to online mooring technical help, as we've had to do a few things this year, but I think we're going to be close to 100% this year. Oh, the one thing I didn't report on, docked vessels. Docked vessels, I have maybe half the docked vessels permits back. I've got a few to go, but that looks good. Mooring floats, that's 100%. So that concludes my report.
Excellent, Ed. Thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions for the Harbor Master?
No, it sounds good.
Very good job.
Well, Ed, this is Kim. I'm enormously grateful to Pequot that they have that they have an extra boat that they are willing to donate to us. I was in contact with the town attorney, as you recall, last fall, and the town does have a procedure for accepting a gift. So why don't I go back and refer to my notes and files, etc., and let you know what there are a couple of forms to fill out, I think, and then then it just goes to I believe, if I recall correctly, to the First Select Woman's office, and perhaps the finance folks. I don't recall about that, but at least to the First Select Woman's office for their okay. So that would be the next step if we are truly that close to being able to accept a generous gift.
Well, I think we are that close.
Okay.
I've reached out. I mean, this has just happened, for all of the commissioners' enlightenment. This has just happened in the past couple of days. So I reached out to a couple of my contacts in the greater Fairfield area, just seeing if there are any used trailers that we would be able to purchase. I haven't had any response as of yet, but that's also in the works.
Okay.
Kim, this is Ted. I was going to suggest to Ed that at an appropriate time he may want to put together a list of expenses that he thinks he'll incur, the trailer and anything else that he needs for that boat. Perhaps there's some safety equipment that he wants to have on board, or something that identifies it as the harbor master, so that we could figure out where the money would come from for that, and so we could also get approval from the HMC to make those expenditures.
Ted, I think that's an excellent idea, and it would also, I suspect, be useful for you to have that information when you chat with the First Select Woman and Chief of Staff about our budget request.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'll need that for that conversation, Kim, because I think this would probably come from the harbor account as opposed to our operating budget. Right. So it would be nice to have that information, but I don't think it's critical since that meeting's only about a week away. Right. If Ed doesn't have those numbers, I don't think it's critical. I could just mention that that's coming up and something that we would have at a later date.
Kim, it's Jack. I think also I have a recollection that the purchasing manager mentioned to me sometime back that we should check with the town's risk manager about the insurance coverage, the town's coverage for the harbor master operating the town's vessel. He thought it would be fine, but we should check on that.
Right. Right. That was part of what the town attorney said. You're right. So that would be a call for us to make as well.
And make sure it's covered, right?
Yeah, to make sure it's covered. But yes, Ed, if you could do that, put together a list of what else we would need to go along with the boat, as well as perhaps, as you suggest, a projection of kind of future expenses and commitments. That would be very useful.
Certainly. If you or Jack or someone is going to be speaking with the risk manager, if they need my captain's documentation, certificates and TWIC card and stuff like that, I'm happy to supply that.
Okay. They will probably need to know as well, some of the specs for the boat. So,
sure.
Perhaps when you get a chance, if you could, shoot me an email with that information, that would be useful too.
Okay. I'm not currently in a registered drug testing program, but I'm available 24/7 for any drug testing if they need that for operating dangerous equipment or anything.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we have time since this is January, and I don't expect that the boat will be in the water much before April. So, but thank you for that, and I will keep you posted on what my conversation with the risk manager is, and we'll take a look at the forms that the town needs and get this rolling.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. That's very generous of the Yacht Club. That's great. That's great news. Any other questions for the Harbor Master? Lower Wharf Project, Jeff Stedman.
Can you hear me, Kim?
Yes, I can, Jeff.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, I guess our the question before us now, or the task before us, is to decide what to do about the expired permit, which was renewed for the permit for the dredging project, and also putting in the last plank of the boat launching ramp. And that permit was renewed, I forget how many times, but as it was renewed last year, we were told by DEEP that was the last year for the renewal. So we're going to need, if we intend to if we're not going to give up on this project, we need to apply for essentially a new permit. Now, the cost of doing that will be less than it would be otherwise, because we've already done the sediment tests and the sediment analysis that's required for the new permit. I spoke with Mr. Sternberg at Race, and I don't know if he's listening on the line tonight. He's been handling this work for us, and in my opinion has done an excellent job in communicating with the Corps and DEEP. So I think we have to discuss the funds that would be necessary for applying for a new permit. Perhaps ask Race to submit a cost proposal for doing it. But if we want to do this project, there's no alternative. We have to get a new permit for doing it. Last month we submitted. Race did on behalf of the Commission the sediment test results to the Corps of Engineers for what's known as a suitability determination, which determines where the material can be disposed of. And as we said last month, that typically takes some time for them to get to it. We still haven't got a response back, or at least we hadn't as of this morning. So I just bring this up. The funds that we have that were granted from the Connecticut Port Authority, they're not going anywhere. The Port Authority is not asking for the funds back. They're the town's funds. It's understood that we could not do this project despite all of our best efforts, because there just was not another project that could serve as a cap for our dredge material, and that we were not given permission to switch the disposal site to a site that doesn't require cap. So we are where we are right now. And I guess I raised that for discussion, and how does the commission wish to proceed? And one recommendation I might make is to consider asking Race to submit a cost estimate for this for the new permit. And I think it's certainly reasonable and understandable that this would not have to go out to bid, because Race is that was the best qualified, because they've done this in the past and are currently working on it. But that's my brief report, or probably not real brief, but.
Well, I guess I would ask the commissioners. I'm assuming that and I said to Jeff earlier today that I didn't see how we could not finish this project. But do we have anybody or any opinion otherwise? I think that might be important to identify. We started this project. We've not been very successful in terms of how far we've gotten. We've been trying to finish it off for a number of years, and I think it's incumbent upon us to finish. And I guess I just want to be sure that the commissioners are on board with that. Is there anybody?
This is Harry.
Yes, Harry.
And I think that we definitely should finish it. It will extend the ramp 8 feet or something, and the water will be deeper. We still have to dredge that whole area out, but
right.
that will make it appropriate for other boats to be able to use that docking area.
Right. And in order to do that, I mean, the only way we can do that is to, unfortunately, apply and get another permit.
If we did not apply for the permit this year and something came along, then we're out again. So I think
right.
we definitely have to apply.
Right.
And this is Jeff again. Sorry to interrupt, but I think we also have to demonstrate good faith with the Connecticut Port Authority, even though the Port Authority has had its issues, but with the understanding or the anticipation that their small harbors program will continue in the future. I don't think we want to give up on a project that was funded through the Port Authority, and we've made really good faith efforts to try to complete it. The fact that we haven't is really beyond our control.
So I
think
yes, Harry. Harry, go ahead.
I think it would adversely affect us if we didn't continue on with future projects.
Yes, and I might also mention, and we'll talk about it later on, but our survey that's ongoing now, or questionnaire, which includes public input on our priorities. And I'm looking at the results, but majority of people, in response to the importance given to completing this project, most of the respondents to the survey, and we now have over 200 responses, feel that this project is very important to the harbor.
Good. Okay. Any other commissioners? Yep. Okay. Other commissioners have any thoughts about this? I guess the frustration is that we continue to be ready to do the project. We've had a contractor, and we've made efforts to renew the permit, and there simply is no other project around, so that we don't have any capping material.
Yeah.
So.
This is Doug. It's a naive question that I'm sure has been asked before, but since I'm newer, maybe I have a little room. Have we explored
Definitely.
the possibility of purchasing cap material? Suitable material for cap?
I will
Jeff?
answer that the best I can, and perhaps if Mr. Sternberg from RACE is on the line, I don't know if it's proper for him to weigh in, but my understanding is that you can't purchase cap material because that material would come from the intertidal, or not the intertidal, but the subtidal public trust area of the state, and actually belongs to the state. So if somebody has a dredge project, they're dredging resources that belong to the state. They can't sell it to somebody else. In other words, it's state property. That's has been my understanding all along, that you can't purchase the cap material because it's other dredge material.
Does it have to come from within the state?
Well, then of course we're adding to the cost significantly, and I've never heard of that being done, Doug. But again, our engineering consultant, they're involved with this all the time, and I don't know if it would be appropriate for them to weigh in now. But for what I know or understand, I don't think that's a feasible thing to think about. But I certainly don't know, may not know, the final result of that. In fact, when we talked a year ago, we talked to a yacht club in another town, which was doing a dredging project. And when I talked to the fellow, he suggested that if we wanted to pay for them to do more dredging, they would be willing to do the dredging to provide the cap for us. And I said I didn't know that the commission wanted to do that. But anyway.
Could the state donate that cap material to us?
But it comes from a project, though. Harry, you know what I mean? It comes from another project. And so you just can't. You have to get a permit to do another project, and somebody has to do that project. And when the state doesn't do, well, maybe they do. Maybe one of their facilities they might do it. But in the past there have been significant projects done by the Corps of Engineers. Like in Norwalk Harbor or New Haven Harbor. Where there's a lot of dredge material. And then the smaller projects can go, first before those projects, and then that's the source of the cap. As far as coordinating it with another project, the Corps of Engineers works to do that, to coordinate projects that one can serve as the cap for another. But it just hasn't been anything available to do that. There have been no, and part of that I believe is because of the dispute with New York State, which has to sign off on the disposal of dredge material in Long Island Sound, and for several years they have not been acting on those projects. So the projects have just been sitting as New York State just delays and delays. But I mean that's as I understand it. That there's going to have to be another project, and it's going to have to serve as the cap to our. We also talked, I think, in response to Doug's question about whether there could be an alternative way of disposing of the dredge material, which would be to dispose of it on land someplace. But again, we'd need a permit to do that, and that's problematic because we'd need to create an area for dewatering it at the town boatyard. And then, the material would be commonly referred to as contaminated material, and then we have the same issue, not the same issue, but the town is certainly sensitive to people asking questions about contaminated material and their disposal in different places now.
Yeah. It would almost be nice if we dredged the harbor, taking out that sand and all, and using that sand as the cap material. But it's probably also more valuable as sand for re-enriching the beaches.
Well, yeah, I apologize for talking on and on, but stuff is interesting and complicated. But our agreement with the state of Connecticut so far, you're exactly right, Harry. The sand has use for a beneficial purpose because it's clean sand. So it's not that they wouldn't permit that to be used as cap material. So in our instance, we've got agreement that we can use that material from the sandbar, which is a topic coming up next, to try to enhance shellfish habitat offshore, and to disperse it over a muddy bottom, and to see if that encourages shellfish growth, and that would enable us to use the Corps of Engineers equipment that's particularly suited to do this. So we wouldn't have to pump it or truck it to a beach. But you're right. We have to use that sand for a beneficial purpose. And capping would be, but not in the DEP's definition of beneficial purpose. But I don't know, that's my. Okay. Sorry for talking so much. And again, we can get more information from Mr. Sternberg or Mr. Santa if they have, anything to add to that, here. I guess.
So perhaps, Jeff, as we request a cost estimate from RACE for submitting a new permit, could we also ask, would it be appropriate to ask if they have any additional, suggestions for how to manage this project? Are we going to go to Central Long Island Sound?
That's what that's what the permit has called for, and that's where material is required to go that requires cap material. And as you know, the preliminary analysis of the more recent tests that we did confirm that it needs cap material. So if it goes into Long Island Sound, that's where it would have to go.
And do we expect, or perhaps we could ask them if they expect New York State to continue to not deal with transporting the dredged material to western Long Island Sound? Because that's where we don't need cap material, right? If New York State approves it.
Western Long Island Sound, but deep, and the Corps of Engineers won't approve taking our material to Western Long Island Sound because of the determination. I know I said they were going to do a determination, but their preliminary determination was it needs to be capped, and therefore it can't go to Western Long Island Sound.
Okay. Well, I guess unless other commissioners have other thoughts, then I think our next course of action in order to continue to make this dredging possible is that we have to do the paperwork that's required to get a new permit. And I think the next step would be to ask RACE for an estimate for what that would cost, so that we can make a decision about it and move on. Are there commissioners who agree, disagree with that?
I would definitely agree. This is Harry.
Thank you, Harry. Anyone else want to opine?
Kim, this is Ted. I would agree as well.
Okay, thank you, Ted.
Hi, Kim. This is Libby. I agree as well.
Thanks, Libby.
Kim, it's Sam Cargill. I agree.
Thanks, Sam.
Kim,
Thank
Eric,
you.
I agree.
Okay, great, Eric. Thank you. So, Jeff, I guess that would be, if you don't mind calling RACE, right. That would be our next step.
Okay. I will do that. And as I said, I think maybe Mr. Sternberg and Mr. Santa are probably listening now and would hear that, but I'll call them tomorrow too.
Excellent. Thank you. And thanks to them. Any other questions about the lower wharf? Okay, Jeff and Mark, sand management.
Thank you. Jeff, you and I spoke before the meeting, so I have nothing to add. I'm turning it to you.
Oh, well, another project, and I might make another reference to our ongoing questionnaire. And by far, the majority of people responding to the questionnaire think that this is a very important project. to accomplish. And before the end of last year, I know we had talked about the Corps of Engineers hopefully coming to Southport for an on-site meeting. They thought before the end of the year. That didn't work out. And then I think I reported last month, in December, I reported that and was concerned and thought that they would not be able to travel to Connecticut and then be able to go back to Massachusetts without quarantining. But the project manager told me that they can travel to Connecticut, and they're going to be sending us some dates for representatives of the Corps of Engineers to meet with, well, not all of us, but meet with a group of us and with two people from the DEEP to present their plan, which is close, they said, close to being finalized in draft form for restoring the 100-foot channel width. So when I talked with the project manager last, she thought it might be the last week in January, which would be, of course, next week, so that's not likely, or one of the first 2 weeks in February. So this project is hopefully will be moving forward, and I've alerted the two DEEP people who would be involved that we'll be getting to them back to them with some dates, and the Corps was going to give us some dates, and also but also try to schedule it around the lower part of the tide as well. So Mark and I will keep pushing the Corps of Engineers to do this, and so let's keep our fingers crossed that by next February's meeting we'll have had this meeting. Can't promise it, but that's what they've said to us. The Corps of Engineers has said. Great,
excellent, very exciting. Actually.
Oh, yes, and they said they have permission to travel out of state on federal business, and they have some authorization to do that, as they said during and the DEP people can travel within the state without a problem.
Good.
Very good.
Excellent. Any questions for Jeff or Mark on sand management? Okay, mooring committee, Jack.
Very quickly, the committee met on January 14th. All of the topics that we talked about were discussed in the Harbor Master's very thorough report this evening, so I won't take any more time. We've covered the points that were discussed in the mooring committee on the 14th. That's my report.
Great. Thanks, Jack. Questions? Anyone? Okay. Harbor Management Plan update. Just want to let everyone know that, and Jeff has really given you a good description of the survey is out. We have over 200 responses, and I'm very excited. Hopefully, we will have results to report at our February meeting. And I hope all of you have had a chance to take the survey. So, any questions? Thoughts? Good. Proposed changes. Yes.
Kim, could I just make a comment, please?
Oh, please. Yes.
On the survey, the results so far have been positive. They're not complaints or criticisms, but thoughtful comments that are presented in a constructive way, I think. And I think you've been able to look at the comments too with a link. But we'll.
I can't see the comments. I can only see the graph of the responses.
Oh, you can't. So, the written comments are quite good. At least the first group of them that I looked at, and I'm assuming the others are too. So I'll try to figure out a way to share all of those results so that you can. Others can look at them. I didn't realize you couldn't see the comments.
Yeah, I can't see the comments. But we need to... Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
Yes, and I'd just like to thank Mr. Clancy, who was retired last year from the town's IT department. I don't know the current IT people, but he was very helpful in setting this up. It doesn't look like it's that complicated when you go to it, but it took a bit of time, and I'm very, very grateful for his help and input into getting this, helping us set this up, and to Betty for getting the link on the town website. I've sent this to Community Sailing to Mr. Ferguson, who's going to send it to his members or to the members of that group, and also to Fair Plan and the Mill River Wetland Group, and so it will be distributed to those interested people as well. And then, just for the purpose of demonstrating the attention that we and the seriousness of what we're doing, I also sent copies to DEP people and the Corps of Engineers. And then I guess we'll have to decide how long to let this run. But anyway, that's I think it's a positive thing so far.
And I want to thank the Yacht Club. The Yacht Club sent out a link to their membership. The Sasquatch group also sent out the link to their membership. So we've had a lot of help, and a lot of those folks have responded. So we're over 200, which is pretty good after 4 days. So thanks to all of the help that we got, and thanks to you, Jeff, for making this happen. Other questions, thoughts, responses? Okay, proposed changes to the rules and procedures, Jack?
Kim, we were thinking that in view of the detailed report from Mr. Engborg coming up and hopefully some good questions from the commissioners, it would make sense to put this topic over as old business for a future meeting, and allow the time tonight to be focused on Mr. Engborg's presentation.
Right, good. Any thoughts or questions from commissioners about the rules and procedures changes, or for where we stand? Anything you want to bring up at this meeting? Okay. Jeff Engborg has graciously agreed to come and describe for us what mooring tackle is, and how the Yacht Club maintains it. And as just to kind of set the table for the commissioners, I like to point out that the Yacht Club the town has a contract with the Yacht Club to manage the mooring tackle in the harbor, and the Yacht Club has a specialized mooring barge that they had designed and built specially for the purpose of managing and maintaining the tackle in the harbor. And over the course of time, they have proved to be the gold standard in terms of keeping boats safely where they're supposed to be, and for setting up, and part of that is the procedures and the attention that they pay to the tackle itself. If you're like me, you know what the tackle is, what the tackle looks like from the top of the water, but except for Jeff Engborg and I'm sure the harbor master, most of us don't know what's going on underneath the water. So I hope that Jeff can fill in some of our knowledge gaps here this evening. And with that, Jeff, if you're there, welcome. Jeff Engborg?
You might need to unmute the lines.
Yeah.
I'll text him.
I'm sorry?
I'll text him.
Okay.
Kim, is it unmuted?
It should be on. Well, no, the line isn't unmuted. Each person can unmute. I didn't want to open it up.
Right.
Sometimes you need to redial in. I've been muted out of the call. Maybe
Really?
he needs to try dialing back in and then hitting *6.
Yeah, he's saying HMC has you muted.
All right. Does he?
I mean, if you have special instructions for him, either just tell him,
6.
or he's gonna call back in.
Okay.
That's what he should do, is call back in.
Yeah.
So while we have some freeze time here, I would reach out to anyone who is on the commission and who has not filed their application for a mooring this year to please do so as soon as possible.
Good evening, Ed. This is Harry French. Did you ever get all my information?
I think you needed an updated insurance certificate.
Really?
I believe. Because I'm doing online mooring stuff.
Okay, you know that you're live, right? Everyone, you know this is public, just so you know.
Yep.
Okay, just making sure.
I'll try it again later.
I'll text you, or just check your email, because I'm trying to attach a link to everyone this year.
Oh, okay.
Jeff Engborg, are you?
I'm getting a message from him right now.
Okay.
He's muted on our end for some reason.
Well, let me.
Are you able to completely unmute, Kim?
I think I just tried to. Is that Jeff?
No, that was Harry.
Yeah, no. But is everyone? If I did what I think I did, everyone should be able now to talk without unmuting themselves. Is that the case?
Kim, this is Jeff Stedman.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
this is Jeff. Can you hear me now?
I just unmuted myself. To hit the command to unmute myself.
Hello?
Hello?
I think Jeff is on board.
Hello?
Good.
Oh, that's better.
Jeff Engborg?
Hi there. This is Jeff Engborg aboard, finally unmuted.
Good evening, Jeff. Harry
Good evening, Jeff. Thank you for trying, and thank you for all the preparation that the commissioners is become part of the agenda that Betty submitted. We can see all the work that Jeff has done to prepare for this meeting. So, Jeff, do you have a copy of the agenda?
Yes, I do, and with your permission,
Take it away.
Okay. With
Take
your
it
permission,
away.
Madam. Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. Can you hear me now?
Thank you.
Okay. With your permission, I'd like to take the 10 minutes you gave me to go over all this material. There's lots of information here for the commissioners for future reference. And I'm happy to take questions after, or if anyone wants to email me, or if you want to invite me back, I might be able to do a better job. So with that being said, I'd like to get started.
Okay.
First of all, the club, like you said, and the town work together through the memorandum of agreement. If anyone needs to see that, I think it's on a town website. The club has the North Anchorage, and it's permitted to the club by the Deep and the Corps, and part of that permit involves some public services and helping the town and stuff like that, which we do with the fuel dock and guest moorings and all that kind of stuff, and mooring maintenance. There's two types of mooring maintenance. There's reimbursable and non-reimbursable costs. So the club does a lot of voluntary maintenance for the town, such as taking care of little problems as they come up, or safety stuff. The one thing that I would like to let you all know, that the most important thing about the yacht club and the harbor is safety. We like to put safety first. That's our primary objective. We have a safety drill once a year that we organize in the junior program, and local police, Coast Guard, and ambulances, we all get them on the same page, and it's been a very good practice. So safety is our is job one for us. Second of all, we do a thing with the moorings that's called reliability-centered maintenance. It's RCM. I used to do it at Sikorsky when I was an engineer there 100 years ago. And it's basically like a military approach to maintaining objects where you get the maximum amount of reliability, the maximum amount of life, but you don't sacrifice safety. So we try to do that. And after 17 years here, minus one, I think that we're able to build on each year, which is good. The club, like I said, does the moorings for the town at cost. We don't make any money. It's part of the things we do for the community. We do a lot of things for like high school sailing at cost, Fairfield Community Sailing. We maintain their boats at cost. We do our safety drill for free, and we do rescues in December for free. We did one last month for a kayaker. So safety, again, is our big priority. So I put together a whole bunch of material here that is way too much for 10 minutes, which reminds me I'm a couple minutes off starting my timer. I apologize for that. So the big deal here is that the moorings are the section. The harbor is split into two zones basically: town moorings and the club permitted North Anchorage. Which, if you look at the big drawing that says race on it, it shows a schematic of the harbor, and that's our hymnal for the harbor, and it puts us all on the same page, and we all have the same language. And so there are two areas: are the club North Anchorage permitted area and the rest. Now the rest is the wall moorings, which are identified, and the Helix area. So the Helix moorings require a diver, and they require extra work, so that's why they're in their own area. But with three areas, we have a 3-year maintenance plan for each area. We have minor maintenance and major maintenance. So every third year, or every year, we're working on 1/3 of the moorings. So this happens to be the year for the wall moorings. So all the wall moorings have been removed, every single one of them, and they're all on the beach. And what we do there is inspect them and replace parts over the winter, and then talk to the harbor master, find out what their assignments are, and figure out what's broken and fix it, and then we put them back in. And then the year after that, we would do the North Anchorage. We would pick all those anchors up and then put those all back. And then the following year, we would do that South Helix field. So the very last handout in that package has a little table with every 3 years on it, so you can see kind of how we do that. We don't just kick the moorings over. The moorings are placed within 1 foot precision using ranges and range poles and a pelican hook. We don't just kick them over. That's not allowed. So because having such a tight harbor means that we have any movement's a problem. Other harbors have a problem with waves, like Black Rock and Greenwich, Indian Harbor, and Larchmont. All those harbors are exposed to the southerly, and they get hammered. We're lucky; we don't get hammered in that way. But our requirements are different. Our restrictions are space, so we have to keep everything disciplined and held in place with 2 anchors, at least, for each mooring. So. If you look through your packet there and you want me to answer any questions later, I'd be glad to. You can either email, call me, or invite me back, like I said. We have there's a schematic of what the different parts are somewhere in there too.
The schematic of the different parts is on the second, for commissioners, it's on the second link that Betty has put in on your agenda. It's the sixth page on the second link. I'm sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
There's 3 big pages there. They're 11 by 17, and each is for each. They're separate by the maintenance areas. So at the very top, there's a heading, which is hard to see. Sorry for that, but you'll see one that says the Pequot Yacht Club North Anchorage. So on that particular page, there's a little schematic of where the anchorage is and a whole bunch of facts that you can look at later. But basically the difference between the areas, too, is the North Anchorage being so tight, each mooring ball that you see floating on the surface has 2 anchors, as shown in that drawing. And we found out that's very effective. Very expensive and a pain in the neck because there's twice the moorings, but when you're that tight, movement is not an option. We also have Helix anchors in that area at the head and the tail of most rows, and they're 25 feet long and screw into the mud, and that's good. So there's some general notes there, but that's what the North Anchorage looks like. You can flip the page to the town wall moorings, and you can see what they look like there. The wall moorings run along the wall, and most of them share anchors. The ones that are over by the Lev Smith area on your drawing are single boat berths with a bow and a stern anchor arrangement. We have a challenge. Ed and I are talking about it already on the wall moorings in the mid-wall section. We had some movement of those in a hurricane or the tropical storm, which is unacceptable. So we're going to have to beef up the tackle there. One thing that we've noticed is, I don't know if it's a function of the inlet or whatever, but that particular bottom is now sandy. It's changed in the time that I've been there. It's like a sandwich. There's a foot of sand and then 2 feet of mud and then sand under it again. It's really weird. So we'll have to talk about some beefing up of tackle there. One good thing about taking all the tackle out at once is we get the benefits of economies of scale, and we can best put the stuff back where it makes the most sense for that particular year. The crew gets really good and really efficient at doing things through repetition. Well, we can load 18 to 20 moorings on the barge and go out there and put them in. So we do we'll do the mid-wall section of the north wall all in one trip. The club is very fortunate that they made the commitment and the purchase in a harbor-specific purpose mooring vessel with an articulating crane and some unique things that are very special for this harbor, such as the driver of the boat can always see the hands of the person working the chain. It's a 2-man boat, so he can always see the hands. It's very safe that way. He's also up front, so he can move the crane and drive the boat at the same time. We're really lucky in that way. Other clubs, if you look around, they have a barge with a hole in it, and they make 1,000 trips out. This boat minimizes the trips, and we're able to pass those savings on to the town by not having to spend a whole lot of time putting these in and taking them out. So that's kind of cool. The third area that is the Helix area, which is on the race drawing identified in the middle of South Helix and North Helix. Those are mostly Helix anchors, but they do have some mushrooms there because there's ledge. There's ledge. There's maybe 4 or 5 mushrooms in there, and the rest are Helix. But the Helix has a different sort of maintenance requirement because you have to have a diver to connect it. But there's positives and negatives to Helixes. They last a real long time, but we have to have a diver every 3 years. and there's a removable component on the top. The top piece you can buy and replace. That's the wear component. The rest doesn't wear. So there's a lot of reliability there, and it's a trade-off. But they work. You guys own them, and they're in there. So those are the three different maintenance zones that we have. And like I said, it's every year we're trying to maintain 1/3 of the population. We're trying to best purpose the parts. We're trying to use reliability center maintenance so you don't get hammered with one big expense at one time. In those 11 by 17 drawings, there's a little schematic, it's probably sideways, sorry, of what the different mooring parts are, and it shows a mushroom and a helix, and the individual parts are identified. And then at the bottom, I've got a little table that shows what the normal MTBR, mean time between replacement, or the useful life of those particular items. Another thing that's standard for all the moorings is when we lift it out and rebuild the mooring anchor assembly, no matter whether it's a helix or if it's a mushroom, we always put a brand new shackle at the bottom, because that shackle at the bottom doesn't get looked at for 3 years. Every floating component up gets looked at every season, no matter where the zone. But every 3 years, the different zones get the bottom anchor and shackle looked at. So that, as a rule, that's always a brand new shackle. It goes to the top. It gets repurposed on the top, where we look at it twice a season minimum. You look at it when you rig the mooring in the spring, and you look at it when you de-rig and tie them together. So that's kind of neat. That's how we can repurpose it. If the mooring chain gets worn, we might put it on a float that has redundant chains so that, you know, we can maximize the use, or we'll put it on a 5-mile-an-hour buoy or something. So we're trying to maximize the use of the materials, but also maintain the safety and the reliability of what we do there, which is interesting. So there's also a definition sheet and a 10-year maintenance plan. What I did was tried to demonstrate on a piece of paper the two different things, the maintenance plan and the cycle of how every year we look at 1/3 of the tackle. So if Area A gets looked at this year, Area B gets looked at next year, Area C gets looked at the year after, and then we repeat with A. So there's an Excel sheet all the way in the back that kind of shows that in a table form, and how we maintain the moorings in that fashion. There's also definitions in the back. It's really important that we have a common language to talk about these, because a mooring isn't a parking spot. A parking spot is a mooring berth. A mooring is the actual tackle that holds the boat in place, and a boat being held in place might have multiple anchors of different types. So it's important when we're talking about that. Oh, sorry about that. There's Mike. So that concludes my verbal section of the report. That's the 10 minutes you allotted. Happy to take questions. Again, I'd really like to talk about this. I like to hear the sound of my own voice about moorings and safety, sorry. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if somebody wants to call me or send me an email, or I could present maybe better with material in better organized shape, because I was in a hurry for this stuff.
Jeff, it's Jack Hirschler.
Hi, Jack.
Fabulous presentation, and I really like the drawings. It looks like you did of this sort of schematic of the component pieces with the surface life table underneath. So related to the surface life question, we're responsible as the commission for paying for the upgrading of equipment that's reached the end of its useful life. How should we think about, sort of on a go-forward basis in terms of planning, is it your experience that the expense for updating the equipment is pretty level, or do we get sort of years where the results of your inspection, when you pulled them, results in a significant uptick in the expense in a given year because of just things reaching the end of their useful life? Try to understand how lumpy the expenses would be for the town as we think about managing our harbor management account.
That's a great question. I would be really happy to meet with you at some point. I have 17 years of information. We can look at the cycle there. But you do get a bit of flattening out, because remember, every 3 years we're picking up a different section.
Right.
And with a little bit of luck, all the parts aren't on the same life cycle. So an anchor, the new anchors between welding of the eye, that's the maintenance significant item on an anchor, a mushroom anchor, They last 6 years or 9 years, so you might not have to change that mooring, but the chain might only last one season depending on how big the boat is and stuff. So luckily, each time we lift, we're not replacing everything. So like I said, they're all on their different. We try to balance that so that we don't take a big hit, but we do maximize reliability. But if you want to meet, we can talk about what that pattern looks like. I've got every bill I've ever written to the town, and we can see the parts.
It could be good to do. I think maybe we should try to plan to do that just to see if there's any kind of a pattern and to help us plan. Like in the years where you're doing the North Anchorage section, that tackle doesn't belong to the town, so our expenses tend to be a little bit lower in those years because the maintenance would be on tackle that belongs to the club, right?
Yes, so the pattern would probably be, or is, a spike, more money for the 2 consecutive years we do those two town zones, and then less money when we do the club zone. But those are the years that we would look even more closely at the bridles and the floating components, because we know in order to balance it out, we'd rather replace them on an off year rather than totally hammer. And we've been doing that, so there is sort of a cycle there. A life cycle concurs with that on those light years, they'll be a lot lighter for the town, but there'll still be some components changed.
Got it. Yeah,
some years
great.
It's way, sorry. So there's also, I put together a 10-year maintenance plan there that you can look at, and that kind of shows what the spike will be, and that final Excel sheet kind of shows a pattern where it's town, club.
Right. So from a finance standpoint, last year was a year, just to remind us, where you were doing the North Anchorage maintenance, correct?
No, last year was the last bill that we billed the town for was the Helix component. So there was divers there, and there was quite a bit of Helix stuff going on there. So that's why that was a little higher.
Right. Okay.
So on certain non-maintenance years, the town bill isn't even enough to bill you. I mean, that's how good it gets. I mean, there are certain years that the bill is, the labor is minimal and the parts are minimal. So we sometimes save that to the next so that it makes it worth billing. Still really cheap.
Right, just so I'm clear. So in 2020, was that one of those years where it was just that sort of minimal maintenance, or am I off a year?
You're off a year. We just billed and got paid for it was a lesser year because it was the second servicing of the Helix since we did a big service. Back in 16, I think it was. I need to look at the paper to be able to tell, but that was the year that we decided to pull out a random Helix and take a look because they had been down for 15 years. Yeah. And at that point, we replaced a lot of the tops. A new piece bolts on the top of them, and it freshens up the wear component. The rest of the Helix doesn't wear because it's all under the mud. So that was more expensive, and so it kind of balanced out that this last bill was not that bad because we serviced the Helix, and you guys reimbursed us for the diver and our expenses, but they were less. Something I can't remember the number, like $8,000. But again, if you want to meet with me, I'd be glad to talk to you. I can show the pattern, and there is a definite pattern there, and we've been.
Maybe Ted and I could take a peek at that with you, since Ted's handling our finances.
Yeah. So Jeff, this is Kim. This is a really dumb question, but why? So you use helixes and mushrooms. What makes you decide to use one versus the other?
Well, the decision was made way long ago. I think about the time of the harbor management plan was being adopted, or shortly after that, where the advantage of the Helix is that they have great holding power and they allow less scope. That's another difference between Southport Harbor and any other harbor. Any other harbor has like 8-to-1 or 10-to-1 scope, or sometimes even 15-to-1 amount of scope. At the club and at the town moorings, there's 1-to-1 scope. So that's why our anchors are bigger, and that's why the Helix work. And there's also less room to swing around. So all our boats have to stay aligned, and they're not always into the wind. So
Right.
that's the benefit of the Helix, is that you get better holding power. The disadvantage of them is they're underground, or they're underwater, and we don't breathe water, so we have to have a diver.
Right.
Where a mushroom is much quicker, you pick it up, but you guys already own those. There's an advantage to them, and it's a trade-off.
Right.
In the South Helix area, we have some, like I said, we have some big mushroom anchors because of the ledge. We couldn't get a 23-foot Helix mooring in the mud there without bouncing off the ledge. Galadriel is one of those that has two big mushroom anchors in the front. A good thing about the bottom isn't consistent anywhere in the harbor, but it is relatively consistent down the middle where they dredged in 2006. So we know that where there isn't ledge there, the mud is very good. So we get good holding power in that area where there isn't ledge. So therefore, we can use bigger mushrooms.
So from what you're describing, just hypothetically, because I know you and Ed will make a good decision, but is it possible that you would be considering Helix moorings to replace those that dragged on the wall along the wall there?
Well, I'd love to, but that area has a lot of ledge. See, the left, the east side or the left side of the channel going all the way out has a ledge problem. Not a ledge problem, but it has ledge.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of a random order, which is kind of weird. If you notice, the moorings at the opening of the channel, right by the sand pit, kind of look like they're in the middle of the channel, but that's how far the ledge comes out. The biggest part of the ledge is right across from the yacht yard flagpole. That's why those moorings look like they're in the middle of the channel, because you can't even put an anchor there.
Gotcha.
And they've always been. That's been traditional all the way back to those old Jeff Sediment photos.
Wow. Great. Commissioners, questions for Jeff. Jeff, this has been excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kim, this is Jeff Stedman. Could I just make a comment or a question? I'm sorry to prolong everything. Jeff, on your first drawing, where you call it race diagrams, down in the lower left corner, you can see where the boundary is between the channel coming into the harbor and then where the anchorage begins. And it's just off of the east float of the south dock at the town boatyard. Do you see where I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. So we have a pretty good handle on the ground or in the water where that line is, and the moorings that are placed are carefully placed so that they're upstream of that line. Do you know what I mean? Okay. Yeah,
we have a good drawing. We have another drawing from Race, excellent drawing that I didn't share with you guys, but it gives actual dimensions in feet from those pilings and from the yacht yard lower wharf. They're big distances, like 175 feet, but we have those distances,
right,
and they were taken into account.
Yeah, because we'll make that statement with the Corps of Engineers when we're at the sandbar, as part of our testimony or assertion, whatever the term is, that we have no moorings in the channel and that everything is managed properly. And that's one of the reasons why we changed, or the commission achieved the change in that narrow part of the harbor from channel to anchorage, so that we could have moorings that are in that area, but also at the same time maintaining a 75-foot wide fairway. So that's nice the way that's managed there. And then the other things, bear with me, the bill that you make to the that you submit to the town, that's not a normal contractor's bill, because it's based only on your costs. You're not making a profit as a commercial entity managing moorings would make, and that's part of the agreement with the town for the 25 years since the harbor management plan, in exchange for the defederalization of the North Anchorage, what used to be a federal anchorage, and the yacht club's exclusive use of that. The understanding or the agreement that's set forth in the harbor management plan is that the yacht club will assist the commission with management of the harbor in the public interest and provide boating services. And so these mooring services have evolved over time, and really have to be looked at as not just a commercial entity providing contractual services, but as a as the entity assisting the harbor with the commission with management of the harbor. And then the other thing, just I don't know if anybody will find this interesting, but when the harbor plan was being considered, and it was contentious, as we know, 25 years ago, we had a number of interesting negotiations with the Shellfish Commission. So the three zones came about as an agreement with the Shellfish Commission that we would remove, that the Harbor Commission would remove moorings from a third of the harbor each year to allow the Shellfish Commission to harvest shellfish, and for transplanting outside of the harbor. So the origin of that 1/3 of the harbor every year being removed, that was not started as a functional approach to managing moorings, but rather to addressing the concerns of the Shellfish Commission and getting agreement that the Shellfish Commission would support the harbor management plan. But it's turned out to be a good approach to managing the moorings from a mechanical and functional way. Thanks for letting me say that stuff. But
very interesting.
Very good presentation.
Any other commissioner with a question for Jeff? Well, Jeff, that was very informative and very interesting, and it'll be interesting to hear from after you and Ed and Jack meet on the kind of what the financial pattern looks like. But
well, thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time tonight to fill us in on all that you do and for your drawings. And I apologize. You sent me some pictures that did not make it to the commissioners, but as soon as we adjourn, I will forward those pictures to the commissioners because they were very good. The picture of George lying on the barge next to the anchor, that was pretty cool. I will send those off to the commissioners this evening. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Unless there's any additional comment or thoughts about the mooring tackle presentation, we're on to the final item of our agenda, which is the deep public information meeting on January 6th, which Jeff attended. So, Jeff, why don't you take it away?
I'll try. Again, sorry for talking so much here, but the comments on this proposal by Aquarian, comments to DEEP, are due on Friday of this week. And if you recall, the proposal is for Aquarian to divert. They have permission now to divert, I believe it's about 7 million gallons a day from the Hemlock Reservoir system, which is largely in Fairfield. Then they divert that as necessary to towns in southwest Connecticut, and they're concerned about meeting demand for water in Greenwich, Darien, Stamford, and New Canaan, I believe, during dry periods. So this proposal is seeking a DEP permit to transfer essentially twice that, up to 14 million gallons a day, from the Hemlock's Reservoir system to the west. And the Hemlock Reservoir drains into Cricker Brook and ultimately into the Mill River and Southport Harbor. So the Commission, of course, has authority and jurisdiction on to comment and make recommendations on proposals that affect the harbor, and that those proposals don't have to originate in the harbor. so that we wrote a letter. Trying to look at this. The date of our letter was the Commission's letter was September 2nd, which had a number of questions in it. Of course, concerned about how this diversion proposal could affect stream and therefore environmental quality, including fish and wildlife habitat and water quality downstream. And at this informational meeting on January 6th, which was pretty well attended via the computer, and there were representatives from the town, from the Conservation Department and Commission, and from the Mill River Wetlands Group, as you would imagine, and also from the Fair Plan Group, and also the Save the Sound environmental organization. And the utility, Aquarian, they published on its website responses to the questions that it had received. And I'm not trying to be like a wise guy, but as you imagine, the responses were that there will be no adverse impacts of this proposal. And it's very, very complex. And we're not hydraulic engineers, but it is still, I think, uncertainties, at least in my mind. Now, I've talked about this with Ms. Jacobson, who's the staff for the Conservation Commission. And the Conservation Commission, as I understand it now, and as she told me now, is going to pursue a petition for a public hearing on this process, on the proposal. And that petition has to be submitted by Friday of this week. So that would give us additional opportunity to learn about this and comment on it. But one thing, and we pointed this out in the letter on September 2nd, back in 2007, Aquarian had a proposal for diverting water from this reservoir system to Ridgefield. And the town intervened in that process and had objections to it. And as a result, there was a letter of agreement that was signed by First Selectman Flato at the time and the Aquarian Company. And that letter specified certain understandings that between the Aquarian and the town, that the town, I guess, negotiated with Aquarian, but it was basically understandings to make clear that what would take place as part of the proposed diversion then, and assurances from Aquarian that it would not affect resources in Fairfield. And then there were some other conditions that were included in that. So my again, talking a lot, my thought is that the Commission should comment on this proposal by Friday, and that the Harbor Commission, and that the Harbor Commission should consider now recommending that based on the precedent of that 2007 agreement, there should be a similar agreement between the town and Aquarian that enumerates the understandings of this diversion project that would make sure that the town's interest in maintaining proper stream flow are maintained and protected. And that the Harbor Commission would look forward to working with the Conservation Commission and other town agencies as necessary, and other groups such as the Mill River Wetland Group to develop the terms of those understandings that would be in a letter to be signed between the town and Aquarian. Now, I don't know what all those understandings would be, but I think that, in my opinion, listening to this, there should be there was a letter of agreement in 2007. Why shouldn't there be a similar letter of agreement for diversion out of the town of this water in 2021? And then by Friday, we'll also know whether the Conservation Commission has submitted the suitable number of list of names to petition for a hearing, which they're confident that they will. But anyway, that's my dissertation, if that's what you want to call it, on this thing. But I don't know how the commission feels.
And I would doubt that there's not going to be some ramification if they're able to withdraw 7 million gallons a day. That's a lot of water.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to affect something.
This is Kim. I agree, Harry. I have no idea what 7 million gallons looks like. But to have 7 million fewer, potentially 7 million fewer gallons coming down the Mill River into the harbor, it seems to me is going to have some impact.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
And I think if we have the opportunity, I have the opportunity to protect our interests by writing a letter too deep. I don't see what we have to lose. I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and again, we mentioned at this public meeting that we're not. This is a little beyond our expertise to understand all these hydraulics and proposals. But 2 years ago, as I think I mentioned, Aquarian had a proposal to withdraw 1 million gallons a day from the Norwalk River aquifer in Wilton. And when they withdrew that proposal because of objections from environmental groups, among other things, and they mentioned that when we asked them about that at the public meeting earlier in January, and they said they withdrew that because of the added costs that would be required as a result of meeting the environmental group's concerns made it unfeasible. But when they argued for that proposal, they argued that this would mean that they would not have to withdraw water from the Hemlocks Reservoir, and therefore they wouldn't have to worry about meeting stream flow requirements in the Hemlocks Reservoir. Now they're saying that they're going to withdraw more water from the Hemlocks Reservoir, and the stream flow requirements aren't a problem. And maybe they're not, because I don't understand it enough. But it just doesn't seem. It seems like there should be as much discussion as necessary. And when we asked them about a letter of agreement in 2007, their response was that the state regulations don't give the town of Fairfield any more standing in these projects than anybody else. And that may be true, but at least back in 2007 there was a special recognition given to the town of Fairfield, and I think we would want to continue that, and not just say, well, the town doesn't have any regulatory jurisdiction, but I don't think there's anything to lose by supporting a letter of agreement of that sort and reserving the right to continue to review and ask questions and provide recommendations during any public hearing process that may be instituted or conducted.
I would be in whole agreement with that.
Commissioners, anyone else?
Yes, I can. That's Eric.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to know specifically for Southport Harbor what the impact would be, gallons per day of flow that would be missing, and also what the net effect would be on the ecosystem regarding the water makeup of fresh and salt, and what that does to the harbor. I mean, that would be something I would be interested in understanding better,
And I
as
think
part of questioning the rationale as to what
right.
the net effect would be on what they would do, as how it affects the flow of water in gallons into the harbor. Yeah.
Right, and Jeff, I think that would be. Didn't they say that there would be no impact?
Yes,
to answer
that question, I don't know the answer, and the utility has said that there will be no impact. And that's what's just hard to understand all of that, and that's why I think you could argue that the more discussion there is of this, and if there is an agreement with the town and Aquarian that includes just that statement that there will be no impact on water flow in Southport Harbor or effect on salinity or if that was one of the understandings that was put in a letter between the town and Aquarian. But to answer that question, I had no idea what the answer from the utility is, that there would be no effect.
Right.
And that's what's hard to understand.
It's very hard to understand. It seems to me that if we should write a letter to DEEP, then they have to. It's much harder to dismiss the letter. It seems to me we're calling on them more officially to tell us about the impact.
Or to maintain the town's, the way I would describe it, standing, special standing in these proposals to withdraw water from the town's boundaries,
right.
just like that 2007 letter, in effect, established. And I don't know what the terms and the understandings would be that would be put into that letter right now. But we could work with the Conservation Commission and perhaps the town's engineering department to specify what those understandings would be to put into that letter.
I'm sure that the Conservation Commission would know what should be put into that letter.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I can't venture a guess as to how much that would affect, but I don't think there's that much flow that would not be affected in some way.
Yeah,
I agree. I think it's nonsensical to think that it's not going to have an impact.
Right.
And I think that by sending the letter, we are suggesting to DEEP that we don't buy the answer. Excuse me. We don't buy the answer that there'll be no impact, and we're asking them to demonstrate more completely and perhaps in a more technical and scholarly fashion just kind of how they arrive at the notion that there will be no impact.
Yeah.
I
definitely think that we should.
I do too, Harry. Are there other commissioners who think we should or think we shouldn't, or have any ideas about how to move forward with this?
I agree with the group. We need to chime in, of course, and dispute it. Sorry, 2 cents.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Anyone else?
This is Doug. Can you hear me?
Yes,
this is Doug.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I also agree that I think a response is warranted, as was outlined here.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Doug. Anyone else want to opine? Well,
sure. So, Mark, I looked up 7 million gallons is 21.5 acre feet, so that's over 21 feet deep across an acre.
Okay.
So, just to visualize how much water it is. But what I wanted to say is, look, it sounds like it's a complicated. Without knowing more, I'd have to go with the recommendation of our consultant Jeff and agree to his suggestion.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. So, it seems like there's a consensus that, Jeff, that we'll go ahead with the letter.
Okay. I'll work on it, Kim, for Friday, or
okay.
so that we get it on Friday, and by then we'll know what conservation has done too.
Okay. So we commissioners, Jeff and I will get that out before the end of the week. Very good. Very good. And those are the only items I have on the agenda. Does anybody else have anything else they need to bring to the Commission's attention? If not, can I have a motion to adjourn until February 16th?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. This is Harry.
Thank you, Harry. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay. That's Mark, I think. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned until February 16th. I hope everyone can stay safe.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night, Betty.